The silence in the boardroom was deafening. 23 pairs of eyes stared at me as I stood at the head of the polished mahogany conference table. My hands steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. But I wasn't looking at any of them. My gaze was locked on one face in particular, a face that had gone from confident smugness to absolute horror in the span of 3 seconds. Riley Martinez sat frozen in her chair, her perfectly manicured fingers gripping her coffee cup so tightly I thought it might shatter. Her mouth had fallen open slightly, and those same brown eyes that had looked at me with such disgust 6 months ago now held nothing but pure shock. "Good morning, everyone," I said, my voice carrying across the room with an authority I'd never felt before. "I'm Maya Chen, and I'm honored to be your new Chief Executive Officer." The room erupted in polite applause, but Riley didn't move. She couldn't. She was still processing what she was seeing: her cousin, the family disappointment, the single mom who wasn't worthy of attending her precious wedding, now standing at the head of the table of the company where she worked. I let my eyes sweep across the room, acknowledging each department head with a nod before my gaze inevitably returned to Riley. "I'm looking forward to working with all of you as we take this company to new heights. I believe in building strong teams based on mutual respect and shared values." The word values seemed to snap Riley out of her trance. She blinked rapidly, her face flushing red as she realized half the room was probably wondering why she looked like she'd seen a ghost. "I know some of you might be surprised by my appointment," I continued, unable to resist a small smile. "I've spent the last several years building my career in marketing and strategic development, often working behind the scenes. But I'm excited to step into this leadership role and show you what we can accomplish together." Riley's colleague, Sandra, leaned over and whispered something to her, probably asking if she was okay. Riley managed a weak nod, but her hands were visibly shaking now. 6 months ago, this same woman had stood in her designer kitchen, her engagement ring catching the light as she waved her hand dismissively at me. "Don't bring your kid to the wedding, Maya. It's for real families only." Her voice had been so cold, so certain of her superiority. "I can't have some child running around ruining my perfect day. This wedding is about celebrating real commitment and family values." Real families, real commitment, family values. The irony was almost too delicious to bear. "I'd like to schedule one-on-one meetings with each department head over the next 2 weeks," I announced, pulling myself back to the present. "We'll discuss your current projects, goals, and how we can better support your teams." When my eyes met Riley's again, I saw something I'd never seen before: fear. Not just surprise or embarrassment, but genuine fear about what this meant for her career, her reputation, her carefully constructed image of superiority. "Riley," I said, my voice perfectly professional, "I believe we should schedule your meeting first. After all, we have so much catching up to do." The color drained completely from her face, and in that moment I knew that everything was about to change. Looking at Riley's pale face across that boardroom table, my mind drifted back to a time when things were so different between us. There was a photo somewhere in my mom's old albums. 2 little girls with gap-toothed grins, arms wrapped around each other at a family barbecue. Riley and I were inseparable back then, despite the 3-year age gap. She was my cool older cousin, and I was her devoted shadow. Our fathers were brothers, and our families lived just 20 minutes apart in suburban Phoenix. Every weekend meant sleepovers, shared secrets, and elaborate games of pretend where we'd be sisters running away to join the circus, or princesses saving kingdoms. Riley taught me how to braid friendship bracelets, and I taught her my secret recipe for the perfect s'more. We promised each other we'd be each other's maid of honor someday. But life has a way of changing people, and childhood promises don't always survive growing up. Everything shifted when I turned 17 and fell head over heels for Marcus, a senior with a charming smile and big dreams. Riley warned me he was trouble, but I was convinced I knew better. "Maya, you're too smart for this," she'd say. but her concern felt like condescension even then. When I found out I was pregnant during my senior year, Riley was away at Arizona State, living her sorority life and dating the captain of the lacrosse team. The day I called to tell her about Emma, the silence on the other end of the phone lasted so long, I thought the call had dropped. "Maya," she finally said, "what are you going to do?" Not congratulations, not "I'll support you." Just what are you going to do, like my pregnancy was a problem that needed solving. Marcus disappeared the moment I told him, leaving me to face everything alone. While Riley was pledging sororities and going to football games, I was learning about prenatal vitamins and figuring out how to finish high school with morning sickness. While she was picking a major and planning spring break trips, I was working double shifts at a diner and taking night classes at community college with Emma strapped to my chest. The contrast became more painful with each passing year. Riley graduated with honors and landed a marketing job right out of college. She moved into a trendy downtown apartment and started posting pictures of wine tastings and work happy hours. Meanwhile, I was celebrating small victories, passing my real estate license exam, Emma's first steps, finally saving enough to move out of my parents' basement. Family gatherings became a special kind of torture. Riley would arrive in designer clothes, talking about her latest promotion or vacation to Mexico, while I'd show up in clearance rack outfits, exhausted from juggling work and single motherhood. She never said anything directly cruel, but the way she'd look at me, with this mixture of pity and superiority, cut deeper than any words. "It's such a shame," I once overheard her telling our Aunt Susan. "Maya had so much potential. She was always the smarter one when we were kids." Had. Past tense. As if my life was already over at 24. But sitting in that boardroom, watching Riley squirm in her designer blazer, I realized something beautiful. Potential doesn't have an expiration date, and the smartest move I ever made was proving her wrong. My alarm clock screamed at 5:30 a.m. every morning, but I was usually already awake, staring at the ceiling and mentally preparing for another day of juggling impossible schedules. While Riley was probably hitting the snooze button in her king-size bed, I was already in the kitchen, packing Emma's lunch and gulping down coffee that never seemed strong enough. Emma would stumble out of her room at 6, her curly hair a mess and her unicorn pajamas twisted from sleep. "Morning, baby," I'd whisper, scooping her into a hug that recharged my soul for the battles ahead. She was my everything, my motivation, my joy, and unfortunately, the reason some people looked at me like I was damaged goods. My day job was at Henderson Marketing, a small firm downtown where I handled social media campaigns for local restaurants and dentist offices. It wasn't glamorous, but my boss, Carol, was understanding when I had to leave early for Emma's school events or stay home with her when she was sick. The pay barely covered our tiny 2-bedroom apartment, but it came with health insurance and the flexibility I desperately needed. 3 nights a week, after picking Emma up from daycare and helping her with homework, I'd drive to the university for my MBA classes. I'd chosen the evening program specifically so I could still be there for Emma during the day, but it meant I was studying until midnight most nights, surviving on caffeine and determination. The worst part wasn't the exhaustion or the financial stress. It was the way people looked at me. At family gatherings, I'd watch conversations die when I approached groups of cousins and aunts. They'd smile politely and ask generic questions about Emma, but I could see the judgment in their eyes. Poor Maya, what a waste. She could have been something. Riley never missed an opportunity to twist the knife, always with that perfect smile that made her cruelty seem almost caring. "Oh, Maya, you look so tired. Are you taking care of yourself?" she'd say in front of everyone, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I worry about you sometimes. Single motherhood must be so overwhelming." At Emma's 5th birthday party last year, Riley had arrived with an expensive American Girl doll, making a big show of her generosity while the other kids played with dollar store toys. "I just want Emma to have nice things," she'd announced loudly, "even if—" She'd let the sentence hang there, but everyone understood the implication. Even if her mother can't provide them. The comments about my appearance hurt the most. "Have you thought about updating your wardrobe?" Riley would suggest, fingering the fabric of my Target blouse. First impressions are so important in business. I could give you some shopping tips if you want. Translation: You look poor and everyone can tell. But the absolute worst was when she'd question my parenting in front of family. Emma seems a little spirited, she'd observe after Emma got excited about something. Have you considered that she might need more structure? Some discipline? As if being a joyful, energetic child was a character flaw that reflected my failures as a mother. Every slight, every condescending comment, every pitying look was building something inside me. A fierce determination to prove that being young and struggling didn't make me less than anyone else. I just had no idea how spectacularly that determination would pay off. The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday in March, nestled between a utility bill and a grocery store circular. The envelope was thick and cream-colored, with Riley's name embossed in elegant gold script. My heart actually skipped a beat when I saw it. Not because I was dying to attend another family event, but because it felt like an olive branch after months of cold shoulders. I carried the invitation inside, Emma trailing behind me with her backpack dragging on the floor. "What's that, Mommy?" she asked, peering over my shoulder as I carefully opened the envelope. The invitation itself was gorgeous, all flowing script and delicate watercolor flowers. Riley Martinez and David Thompson request the pleasure of your company. But it was the handwritten note on the back that made my breath catch. Maya, can't wait to celebrate with family. Love, Riley. P.S. The venue is going to be absolutely magical. For the first time in years, Riley had reached out to me personally, not through our parents, not through social media, but directly to me. And she'd called me family. "Is Cousin Riley getting married?" Emma asked, trying to sound out the fancy words on the invitation. "Yes, baby, and we're invited to the wedding." I couldn't keep the smile out of my voice. Maybe I'd been too harsh in my judgment of Riley. Maybe she was finally ready to move past whatever had created this distance between us. I called my mom immediately. "Did you see Riley's invitation?" I asked, barely containing my excitement. "Oh, honey, yes. Isn't it beautiful? Linda's been planning this for months. The venue costs more than most people's cars." Mom laughed. "She's so proud of Riley. A destination wedding in Sedona. Very fancy." "Riley wrote me a personal note," I said, reading it again. "She seems really excited to have us there." "Of course she is. Your family, Maya. Whatever silly tensions existed before, a wedding changes everything. It's about new beginnings." That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went online shopping. Not at the discount stores I usually frequented, but at real department stores. I found a beautiful navy blue dress with a subtle floral pattern that would be perfect for a spring wedding. It cost more than I typically spent on clothes in 3 months, but this felt important. This felt like Riley was finally accepting Emma and me as part of the family. For Emma, I picked out a sweet pink dress with a tulle skirt that would make her feel like a princess. She was so excited when the boxes arrived. "Mommy, we're going to look so pretty at the wedding," she squealed, twirling around the living room in her new dress. I even splurged on new shoes for both of us and made an appointment to get our hair done the morning of the wedding. This was going to be our moment, the day Emma got to see her extended family celebrate together, the day I could finally relax and enjoy being part of something bigger than our little family of 2. Looking back now, I realize how desperately I wanted to belong, how much I needed to believe that Riley's success hadn't changed the core of who she was, how naive I was to think that one handwritten note could bridge years of growing resentment. I should have known better. But hope, even false hope, is a powerful thing. 3 days before the wedding, I was helping Emma practice walking in her new shoes when my phone rang. Riley's name flashed on the screen, and my stomach did a little flip of excitement. Maybe she was calling to finalize details or ask if we needed directions to the venue. "Hey, Riley," I answered, trying to match her usual upbeat tone. "Emma and I are so excited for Saturday. She's been practicing her—" "Maya, stop!" Riley's voice was sharp. cutting through my enthusiasm like a knife. "I need to talk to you about the wedding." Something in her tone made my blood run cold. I watched Emma twirl in the mirror, completely oblivious to the conversation about to shatter our excitement. "Okay," I said carefully. "What's up?" Riley took a deep breath, and I could practically hear her gathering courage for whatever bomb she was about to drop. "Look, I know the invitation said 'and guest,' but there's been a misunderstanding. When I wrote that, I meant like a boyfriend or a date. An adult. You can't bring Emma." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "Riley, Emma is your family. She's your cousin too." "Maya, please don't make this harder than it has to be." Riley's voice took on that patronizing tone I'd grown to hate. "This is a child-free wedding. We've been very clear about that with everyone else. The venue is all glass and antiques. It's not appropriate for children." "But your note said you couldn't wait to celebrate with family," I protested, my voice cracking. "Emma is our family." Riley sighed heavily, like I was being unreasonable. "Maya, let's be honest here. This wedding cost more than most people make in a year. Every detail has been planned perfectly. I can't have some kid running around, potentially breaking things or having a meltdown during the ceremony." Some kid. She'd just called Emma some kid. "Riley, she's 5 years old, and she's been so excited." "That's exactly my point," Riley interrupted. 5-year-olds don't belong at sophisticated events like this. "Look, I get that you're doing your best as a single mom, but you have to understand, this wedding is about celebrating real commitment and family values. I need people there who understand what that means." The silence stretched between us as her words sank in. Real commitment, family values. As if my love for Emma, my sacrifice and dedication to raising her, somehow didn't qualify as real or valuable. "What are you saying, Riley?" My voice was barely a whisper. "I'm saying maybe you could get a babysitter? My wedding is about David and me starting our life together the right way. I can't have distractions." She paused, then added with false sweetness, "I'm sure you understand. You want what's best for everyone, right?" I looked at Emma, still admiring herself in the mirror, completely innocent and trusting that we were going somewhere special together. The new dress we'd bought, the hair appointment I'd scheduled, the excitement that had been building for weeks. It all crumbled in that moment. "Maya, are you there?" "Yeah," I managed. "I'm here." "So you'll figure something out? For Emma, I mean?" I closed my eyes, feeling something break inside my chest. "Sure, Riley. I'll figure something out." But as I hung up the phone, I already knew what I was going to figure out, that we deserved better than this. I stared at my phone for a full minute after Riley hung up, my hands trembling with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. Emma was still spinning in front of the mirror, humming to herself, completely unaware that our world had just shifted on its axis. "Mommy, do you think Cousin Riley will like my dress?" she asked, doing a little curtsy that made the tulle skirt flare out perfectly. The innocence in her voice nearly broke me. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that she's been deemed unworthy of attending a family celebration? How do you tell your daughter that her own cousin doesn't consider her part of the real family? "It's beautiful, baby," I managed, my voice thick with unshed tears. "Why don't you go play in your room for a bit? Mommy needs to make some phone calls." The first call I made was to my parents. Surely they would be as outraged as I was. Surely they would see how cruel and unfair this was. "Dad, did you know Riley's wedding is child-free?" I asked the moment he picked up. There was a pause, too long of a pause. "Well, honey, I think Linda mentioned something about it being an adult affair." "An adult affair? Dad, Emma is family. She's been excited about this for weeks." My father sighed heavily, and I could picture him rubbing his forehead the way he did when he was stressed. "Maya, sweetheart, maybe this is for the best. You know how Emma can get when she's overstimulated. All those people, the loud music, staying up past her bedtime." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Emma can get? Dad, she's a normal 5-year-old who gets excited at parties because that's what kids do. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Emma," he backpedaled quickly. "I'm just saying maybe Riley has a point. It's her special day, and she's put so much money into this wedding. Maybe you should just get a babysitter and go have a good time for once." When I called my mom, hoping for different advice, she echoed the same sentiment. "Honey, I know you're disappointed, but Riley is family too. She's been planning this wedding for over a year. Maybe it would be nice for you to have an adult evening out?" An adult evening out, as if the problem was that I needed to party, instead of understanding that my daughter had been deliberately excluded from her own family. That night, after Emma had gone to bed still chattering excitedly about the wedding, I sat on my couch and made a decision that felt both liberating and terrifying. I wasn't going to scramble to find a babysitter so I could celebrate Riley's real family while my daughter stayed home. I wasn't going to smile and pretend everything was fine while my own parents chose Riley's comfort over Emma's inclusion. I called Riley back and left a voicemail. "Hey, it's Maya. I've thought about what you said and you're right. This wedding is about celebrating your values. Emma and I will be celebrating our own family values that day, which include loyalty, acceptance, and unconditional love. Have a beautiful wedding." Saturday morning, while Riley was probably getting her hair done and posing for photos, Emma and I went to the zoo. We had a picnic lunch, rode the carousel 3 times, and fed the giraffes. Emma never asked about the wedding. I think she could sense something had changed, even if she didn't understand what. But as we walked hand in hand past happy families, I felt more alone than I ever had in my life. Monday morning arrived with its usual chaos. Emma had spilled orange juice on her school uniform, my coffee maker decided to break, and I was running 20 minutes late by the time I dropped her off at daycare. When I finally stumbled into the office at Henderson Marketing, I was disheveled, stressed, and fighting back tears I'd been holding in since Saturday. Jake Morrison looked up from his desk as I hurried past, and I could feel his eyes following me. Jake was our senior account manager, 3 years older than me, with kind eyes and an easy smile that made even our most difficult clients feel heard. We'd worked together for 2 years, but our relationship had always been strictly professional. Friendly, but with clear boundaries. "Maya, you okay?" he called out as I fumbled with my computer password for the 3rd time. "Fine," I lied, not trusting my voice to say more. "Just one of those mornings." But Jake had an annoying ability to read people, and he wasn't buying it. Around 10 a.m., he appeared at my cubicle with 2 cups of coffee and a concerned expression. "Okay, what's really going on?" he said, setting 1 cup down in front of me. "You look like you haven't slept in days, and you've been staring at that same email for 20 minutes. I wanted to brush him off, to maintain the professional facade I worked so hard to keep in place. But something in his voice, genuine concern without pity, broke through my defenses. "My cousin got married this weekend," I said finally. "That's usually a good thing," Jake said gently, settling into the empty chair beside my desk. "It is when you're invited." The whole story came tumbling out. Riley's phone call, my parents' reaction, the wedding I'd skipped, the zoo trip with Emma. Jake listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. "Wait, let me get this straight," he said when I finished. "She called your 5-year-old daughter a distraction and said the wedding was for real families only?" Hearing him say it out loud made it sound even worse. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Jake was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke again, his voice was tight with controlled anger. "Maya, that's not just rude, that's cruel. And your parents actually sided with her?" "They said it was her special day," I whispered. "Her special day doesn't give her the right to exclude a child from her own family." Jake shook his head. "You know what this tells me about you? It tells me you have more integrity in your little finger than your cousin has in her entire body. You chose your daughter over their approval, and that takes real strength." I felt tears threatening again, but for different reasons this time. When was the last time someone had seen my choice as strength instead of stubbornness? "You're worth 10 of people like that," Jake continued, "and I hate that they've made you feel otherwise." He paused, then leaned forward slightly. "Can I tell you something? Our parent company has this executive MBA scholarship program. Full tuition, designed for high-potential employees who want to move into leadership roles. The application deadline is next month." "Jake, I can't afford—" "It's completely funded. Books, tuition, everything. And Maya, you're brilliant at client strategy and relationship building. You see solutions other people miss. Stop letting people make you feel small when you were meant for bigger things. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of something I'd almost forgotten: hope. Jake's words about the scholarship program haunted me for 3 days. Every time I started to dismiss the idea as impossible, I'd remember the look in his eyes when he said I was worth 10 of people like Riley. So on Thursday evening, after Emma was asleep, I sat at my laptop and pulled up the application. The requirements were intimidating: a comprehensive business proposal, 3 professional references, essays about leadership philosophy and career goals, and a presentation to a panel of executives. The program was designed for mid-level professionals ready to transition into senior leadership roles. Was I really ready for something like this? I thought about Riley's voice on the phone, dripping with condescension. You're doing your best as a single mom, but maybe it was time to stop just doing my best and start excelling. The next few weeks became a carefully orchestrated balancing act. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to work on my application before Emma got up. During my lunch breaks, I'd research successful marketing campaigns and industry trends. After Emma's bedtime, I'd refine my business proposal, a comprehensive digital transformation strategy for small businesses that I'd been developing based on my work with Henderson's clients. The hardest part was keeping it secret. At family dinners, I smiled and nodded while my parents updated me on Riley's honeymoon photos and new promotion to marketing director. I didn't mention that I'd been quietly networking with marketing executives across the city, building relationships that might open doors I'd never imagined walking through. Maya seems distant lately, I overheard my mom tell my dad one Sunday. I hope she's not still upset about the wedding thing. Riley's doing so well at her company. Maybe Maya feels left behind. Left behind. If only they knew I was actually preparing to leap ahead. The scholarship interview was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. I'd told Carol I had a dentist appointment, carefully arranging my schedule so no one would suspect anything. I chose my best blazer. Not designer like Riley's wardrobe, but professional and confident. The panel consisted of 3 executives from different industries, and they grilled me for 2 hours. They asked about my leadership experience, my vision for the future of marketing, and how I'd handle complex business challenges. When they asked about balancing career ambitions with personal responsibilities, I thought of Emma. Being a single mother has taught me more about leadership than any textbook could, I said. Every day, I make decisions that affect not just my career, but my daughter's future. I've learned to be strategic, resilient, and innovative, because failure isn't an option when someone depends on you completely. 3 weeks later, the acceptance email arrived. Full scholarship, starting in the fall semester. I stared at the screen in disbelief, then called Jake. I knew it, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Maya, this is just the beginning. You're going to be amazing. As I started the program, I kept my new schedule carefully hidden from family. Evening classes meant Emma and I had even more alone time during the day, and I treasured those moments. She'd help me practice presentations, sitting cross-legged on my bed and clapping enthusiastically after each run-through. Mommy, you're going to be the best boss ever, she'd say, and I'd think about Riley's definition of real family values. My daughter's unwavering faith in me was worth more than all their approval combined. While I was quietly building my future, Riley was busy broadcasting hers to the world. Her Instagram feed became a constant stream of highlights from her perfect life. Professional photo shoots from her honeymoon in Bali, carefully staged shots of her and David's new downtown condo, and endless posts about her recent promotion to marketing director at Morrison & Associates. At Thanksgiving dinner, barely 3 months after the wedding, Riley held court at my grandmother's dining table like she was hosting her own personal talk show. She'd positioned herself strategically at the center of the table, her wedding ring catching the light every time she gestured, which was often. The CEO personally recommended me for the promotion, she announced, passing the cranberry sauce with a flourish. He said my campaign for the Richardson account was the most innovative strategy he'd seen in years. I mean, I knew it was good, but to get that kind of recognition from the top. She trailed off with false modesty, waiting for someone to ask for details. Uncle Bob, predictably, took the bait. That's incredible, Riley. What kind of numbers are we talking about? Well, I probably shouldn't say exact figures, but let's just say the client renewed their contract for 3 times the original amount. Riley's smile was blinding. David jokes that I'm going to make more than him soon, but honestly, when you have a gift for understanding what clients really need, I focused on cutting Emma's turkey, trying to ignore the familiar knot in my stomach. Emma was chattering quietly about her art project, completely absorbed in describing the turkey she'd made from her handprint. Her innocence was a balm against Riley's performance. And the best part, Riley continued, is that I'm building such strong relationships with the executive team. The CEO mentioned that he's thinking about restructuring the company, bringing in fresh leadership. I think there might be some amazing opportunities opening up. My mother beamed at her. Riley, you're just so accomplished. It's wonderful to see you thriving. Thank you, Aunt Carol. You know, I really believe that success comes from making smart choices and having the right priorities. Riley's eyes flicked to me for just a moment. Some people get distracted by other things, but I've always kept my eye on what really matters. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Emma looked up from her plate, sensing the tension even if she didn't understand it. Mommy, can we go see the Christmas lights after dinner? She asked, her voice cutting through the awkward silence. Of course, baby, I said, grateful for the interruption. Riley's expression softened slightly as she looked at Emma. Oh, that's sweet. David and I are going to Aspen for Christmas. His family has a cabin there. Very exclusive area. It'll be nice to have some real adult time, you know? More coded language. More reminders that her life was sophisticated and mine was not. What Riley didn't know was that while she was posting pictures of wine tastings and weekend getaways, I was spending my evenings in boardrooms and conference calls, learning from actual CEOs and industry leaders. While she was networking at company parties, I was building relationships with executives who could change the trajectory of my entire career. She was so busy performing her success that she never thought to ask what I was doing with my life, and that blindness was about to cost her everything. The call came on a rainy Tuesday morning in April, just as I was finishing my second cup of coffee and reviewing my notes for a major presentation in my advanced strategic leadership class. The number wasn't familiar, but something made me answer anyway. Maya Chen, this is Patricia Williams from Meridian Corporation. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. Meridian Corporation. I nearly dropped my phone. They were one of the largest marketing and consulting firms in the Southwest, with Fortune 500 clients and a reputation for innovation that made other companies envious. What could they possibly want with me? Not at all, I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. How can I help you? We received your resume through our executive recruitment network, and frankly, we're impressed. Your work at Henderson Marketing, combined with your current MBA program and the business proposal you submitted for your scholarship application, has caught our attention. We'd like to discuss a potential opportunity. My heart started racing. I hadn't even sent them my resume directly. This had to be through Jake's network or one of my professors. I'd be very interested to hear more. We have an immediate opening for Chief Marketing Officer. It's a significant role. You'd be overseeing a team of 40, managing multi-million-dollar accounts, and working directly with our executive leadership team. Would you be available for an interview this Thursday? CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, at a company where Riley would probably kill to get an entry-level position. I thought about her recent Instagram post bragging about managing a team of 5 people. Absolutely, I said, my voice stronger now. Thursday works perfectly. The first interview led to a second, then a third. Each round was more intense than the last, with presentations, case studies, and meetings with department heads who grilled me on everything from digital transformation strategies to crisis management. But instead of feeling intimidated, I felt energized. This was what I'd been preparing for, even when I didn't realize it. During the final interview, Patricia Williams walked me through the executive floor, pointing out the corner offices and introducing me to senior staff. The person who takes this role will be instrumental in our 5-year growth plan, she explained. We're looking for someone who can think strategically, but also isn't afraid to get their hands dirty." As we concluded the meeting, Patricia mentioned something that made my pulse quicken. "By the way, we're also in the process of selecting a new CEO. Our current CEO, Robert Harrison, is retiring after 20 years, and the board is conducting a national search. It's quite exciting, a real opportunity for fresh leadership." CEO. The word echoed in my mind as I drove home. 2 weeks later, the CMO offer came through. More money than I'd ever imagined making, full benefits, and a clear path for advancement. But before I could even fully process that victory, Patricia called again. "Maya, I have an unusual request. The board has been reviewing candidates for the CEO position, and your name came up in our discussions. Would you be interested in interviewing for that role instead?" I sat in my car outside Emma's daycare, staring at nothing, trying to process what I'd just heard. CEO of Meridian Corporation. It seemed impossible, but Patricia's voice was completely serious. "The thing is," she continued, "we'd need you to start immediately if selected. Like Monday. Monday. This Monday. In 5 days, I could go from struggling single mom to CEO of a major corporation." I stood outside the glass doors of Meridian Corporation at 7:45 a.m., clutching my briefcase and trying to calm the butterflies performing acrobatics in my stomach. After 3 grueling rounds of interviews with the board of directors, countless background checks, and a weekend of contract negotiations that still felt surreal, I was about to walk into my first day as Chief Executive Officer. The security guard, Martinez, smiled warmly as he handed me my new ID badge. "Congratulations, Ms. Chen. The whole building's been buzzing about the announcement. Youngest CEO in company history. That's pretty impressive." The elevator ride to the 20th floor felt like it lasted forever. I'd spent the weekend researching every employee, every department, and every ongoing project. I knew the company inside and out, but I still felt like I was stepping into someone else's life. Patricia Williams met me at the elevator with a stack of briefing documents and a coffee that was definitely stronger than my usual. "Ready for this?" she asked with a knowing smile. "The senior staff meeting starts in 15 minutes. Everyone's eager to meet their new boss." As we walked down the hallway toward the boardroom, I caught glimpses of employees through glass office walls. Some looked curious, others excited. A few seemed nervous. Change was never easy, especially when it came this fast. "Is everyone here?" I asked as we approached the boardroom doors. "All department heads, yes. Finance, HR, operations, legal, and marketing." Patricia paused at the door handle. "Maya, I should mention, our marketing director seemed particularly surprised by the announcement yesterday. She apparently had some strong opinions about the board's choice." Something in her tone made me look at her more carefully. "Is there something I should know?" Patricia's expression was carefully neutral. "Let's just say she mentioned having family connections that she felt might have influenced our decision. When we told her that wasn't a factor, she seemed confused." Family connections. A cold realization started creeping up my spine. "Patricia, what's the marketing director's name?" "Riley Martinez. Do you know her?" The world seemed to slow down for a moment. Riley worked here. Riley worked at Meridian Corporation, and I was about to walk into that boardroom as her new boss. The same Riley who had excluded Emma from her wedding because we weren't real family. The same Riley who thought I was a struggling single mom with no prospects. I thought about Emma, probably sitting in her kindergarten class at this very moment, drawing pictures and telling her friends that her mommy had a new job. She had no idea that her mother was about to become the CEO of a major corporation, or that the cousin who had deemed her unworthy of attending a wedding was about to get the shock of her life. "Maya, you look pale. Are you all right?" I straightened my shoulders and smoothed my blazer. "I'm perfect. Let's do this." Patricia opened the boardroom doors, and I walked in to find 23 faces turned toward me expectantly. My eyes swept the room professionally, acknowledging each person with a confident nod, before they inevitably landed on the one face I'd been both dreading and anticipating. Riley Martinez sat frozen in her chair, her coffee cup halfway to her lips, her eyes wide with absolute shock. "Good morning, everyone," I said, my voice carrying across the room with an authority I'd never felt before. "I'm Maya Chen, and I'm honored to be your new Chief Executive Officer." The silence in the boardroom stretched for what felt like an eternity. 22 people were processing the introduction of their new CEO, but only one face held my attention. Riley's coffee cup trembled slightly in her hands, and I watched as her face cycled through a rainbow of emotions: shock, confusion, disbelief, and finally, something that looked dangerously close to panic. "I'm looking forward to working with all of you as we take Meridian Corporation to new heights," I continued, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. "I believe in collaborative leadership, open communication, and building teams based on mutual respect and shared values." The words "shared values" seemed to snap Riley out of her trance. She set down her coffee cup with a slight clatter and managed a weak smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I know some of you might be surprised by my appointment," I said, letting my gaze sweep across the room before briefly meeting Riley's eyes again. "Change can be challenging, but I'm confident that together we can achieve remarkable things." Tom Harrison from Finance was the first to speak up. "Congratulations, Ms. Chen. We're excited to hear your vision for the company's future." "Thank you, Tom. I'd like to schedule one-on-one meetings with each department head over the next 2 weeks. We'll discuss your current projects, goals, and how I can better support your teams." I pulled out my tablet, all business. "Riley, I think we should schedule your meeting first. After all, marketing is such a crucial component of our growth strategy." Riley's smile became even more strained. "Of course, I'm excited to discuss our department's initiatives with you." Her voice was higher than usual, with just the slightest tremor. After the meeting concluded and people began filing out, Riley lingered near her chair, clearly struggling with whether to approach me or flee. I could see her internal debate playing out across her face. Finally, she walked over with what I could only describe as a performance of enthusiasm. "Maya!" she exclaimed, her voice artificially bright. "Oh my God, I had no idea. This is so incredible. I mean, what are the odds?" She laughed, but it sounded forced and nervous. "Small world," I replied evenly, keeping my expression professionally pleasant. "This is just… wow. I can't believe you're here. I mean, I knew you were smart, but CEO, that's amazing." Riley was talking too fast, her hands gesturing wildly. "We should definitely catch up soon. Maybe grab lunch? As family, I mean. This is so exciting." I watched her performance with a mixture of fascination and pity. This was the same woman who had called my daughter some kid and excluded us from her wedding for not being real family. Now she was practically vibrating with forced enthusiasm, already trying to rewrite our history. "I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunities to talk during our department meeting," I said calmly. "I'm particularly interested in reviewing your team's performance metrics and strategy alignment." Something flickered in Riley's eyes, fear maybe, or the dawning realization that this wasn't going to be the cozy family reunion she was trying to orchestrate. Her smile faltered for just a moment before she forced it back into place. "Of course. Professional. Absolutely." She gathered her things quickly. "I should get back to my team. They're probably wondering about the transition plans." As she hurried out of the boardroom, I couldn't help but notice that her confident stride had been replaced by something much less certain. The power dynamic had shifted completely, and we both knew it. That evening, I sat in my corner office as the sun painted the city skyline in shades of gold and amber. The executive floor was quiet now, most employees having left for the day, and I finally had a moment to truly absorb what had happened. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the city sprawling below, a city where just this morning I'd been Maya Chen, single mom struggling to make ends meet. Now I was Maya Chen, CEO. On my desk sat a small framed photo of Emma that I'd brought from my old cubicle at Henderson Marketing. She was laughing in the picture, her gap-toothed grin wide and uninhibited, chocolate ice cream smeared on her cheek from a celebration dinner we'd shared after I'd gotten into the MBA program. She had no idea then that her mommy would one day sit in an office like this, making decisions that affected hundreds of employees and millions of dollars in revenue. I thought about Riley's face in that boardroom. The shock, the desperate scramble to reposition herself, the sudden enthusiasm for our family connection. It would have been so easy to feel vindicated, to revel in the role reversal, to enjoy watching her squirm. But as I sat there, looking at Emma's picture, I realized something profound had shifted inside me. I didn't need Riley's validation anymore. I didn't need her approval, her acceptance, or her acknowledgement that Emma and I were worthy of being called family. The little girl Riley had dismissed as some kid was now the daughter of her boss, but more importantly, she was the daughter of someone who had finally learned her own worth. For years, I'd measured my success against Riley's standards, always coming up short in her eyes. I'd felt small at family gatherings, defensive about my choices, apologetic about my circumstances. I'd let her comments about my appearance, my parenting, my prospects chip away at my confidence until I'd almost started believing them myself. But Emma had never needed Riley's approval to know she was loved, valued, and important. She'd grown up secure in our little family of two, never doubting for a moment that she was enough exactly as she was. Maybe it was time I learned that lesson from my 5-year-old daughter. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Saw the Meridian announcement online. Holy shit, Maya, you're a CEO. Call me when you can. I'm buying dinner to celebrate. Another text came through from my MBA study group. Chen, you absolute legend. Save us some corner offices when we graduate. And then, unexpectedly, a text from my mom. Honey, Linda just called. She heard about your new job. I'm so proud of you. We all are. I smiled, thinking about how the family dynamic would shift now. Not because I was vindictive, but because success has a way of changing how people see you. Riley would probably try to claim some credit, to emphasize our family connection at every opportunity. My parents would suddenly remember all the times they'd believed in me. But the truth was, I'd done this without any of them. Emma and I had built something beautiful together. A life based on love, determination, and the unshakable belief that we were enough, just as we were. The CEO title was just the cherry on top. 2 weeks later, the monthly family barbecue at my grandmother's house had an entirely different energy than usual. Word of my promotion had spread through our extended family like wildfire, and suddenly, everyone wanted to congratulate me. Aunts who had previously offered condescending parenting advice were now asking for career guidance. Cousins who had treated me like the family disappointment were suddenly very interested in my journey to success. Emma ran around the backyard with the other kids, completely oblivious to the shift in adult dynamics. She was just happy to have extra playground time and unlimited access to my grandmother's famous chocolate chip cookies. Riley arrived fashionably late, as always, but without her usual confident stride. She'd been noticeably different at work since my first day. More careful with her words, less likely to dominate meetings, and significantly more deferential during our one-on-one discussion about her department's performance. Today she seemed nervous as she scanned the crowd, probably gauging how the family reception might go. I was helping my grandmother arrange food on the picnic table when Riley approached. She'd clearly rehearsed this moment, taking a deep breath before speaking. Maya, could I talk to you for a minute, privately? I glanced over at Emma, who was teaching her younger cousin how to do a cartwheel, then nodded. Sure. We walked to a quieter corner of the yard, near my grandmother's rose garden. Riley fidgeted with her wedding ring, a nervous habit I'd never noticed before. I owe you an apology, she began, her voice quieter than I'd heard it in years. About the wedding, I mean. I think I may have been out of line. May have been. Even in her apology, Riley couldn't quite commit to full accountability. You were stressed, I said diplomatically. Weddings can bring out strong emotions. No, Maya, it wasn't just stress. Riley looked genuinely uncomfortable now. I guess I was threatened by you. You were this single mom working 2 jobs and going to school, and you never complained. You never asked for help. You just handled everything. And I think part of me resented that strength. This was more honesty than I'd expected from her. I watched Emma attempt to teach our elderly Uncle Frank how to do a somersault, both of them dissolving into giggles when he got stuck. "Emma is a wonderful kid," Riley continued. "She's smart and funny and clearly adores you. I was wrong to exclude her, and I was wrong to imply that your family wasn't real." She paused, then added quietly, "For what it's worth, I think you're an incredible mother and an incredible person." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or calculation, but all I saw was genuine regret. Riley had always been many things: competitive, entitled, sometimes cruel, but she'd never been a liar. "I appreciate you saying that," I said finally. "Families should support each other, not tear each other down. Does this mean we can start over? Maybe build something better?" I looked at Emma again, now helping my grandmother gather plates, her face serious with concentration, as she tried to be helpful. My daughter had taught me about forgiveness, about second chances, about the power of choosing love over grudges. "I'd like that," I said, and meant it. "But Riley? Next time there's a family celebration, Emma and I come as a package deal." Riley smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in years. I wouldn't have it any other way. 6 months later, I stood in the main conference room of Meridian Corporation, watching Emma race through the halls during our first annual Bring Your Family to Work Day. The initiative had been my idea, a way to build stronger connections between our employees' professional and personal lives. The irony wasn't lost on me that the little girl once deemed too disruptive for a family wedding was now the star of our corporate family event. Emma had appointed herself as the unofficial tour guide, leading a group of employees' children through the office with the confidence of someone who belonged there completely. "And this is my mommy's office," she announced proudly, gesturing toward the corner suite. "She's the boss of everyone, but she's still the best mommy in the whole world." The employees adored her. Sarah from accounting had spent 20 minutes teaching Emma how to use the copy machine to make important business papers. The IT department had set up a special computer station where kids could play educational games. Even our usually stern facilities manager, Robert, had been spotted giving piggyback rides during lunch break. Riley appeared beside me, holding a juice box and watching the chaos with amusement. Our relationship had slowly rebuilt over the past months, not to the closeness we'd shared as children, but to something healthier and more honest. She'd actually become one of my most reliable department heads, her competitive nature now channeled into making our marketing campaigns the best in the industry. "You know," Riley said, handing me the juice box, "I used to think success meant keeping everything separate. Work here, family there, never let them touch because it wasn't professional." She paused, watching Emma help a shy toddler navigate the coffee station that had been converted into a juice bar. I think I was wrong about a lot of things. Through the glass walls, I could see the city where I'd once struggled to make ends meet, where I'd felt so small and insignificant. That version of Maya felt like a different person now, not because of the title on my door or the salary in my bank account, but because I'd finally learned what I was truly worth. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake, now a senior VP at his own company. "Saw the Forbes article about Meridian's innovative family programs. Look who's changing corporate culture. Emma's going to rule the world someday." He wasn't wrong. Emma had grown up watching her mother balance work and parenthood, seeing that ambition and love weren't mutually exclusive. She'd learned that families come in all shapes and sizes, that success is measured in more than just money, and that being excluded from one celebration just means you get to create better ones. As the afternoon wound down and families began to leave, Emma ran over to me with a drawing she'd made in the kids' activity corner. It showed two stick figures holding hands, one tall, one small, standing in front of a building with "Mommy's Work" written in purple crayon. "For your desk," she said solemnly, as if she were presenting a Picasso. I hung it next to my MBA diploma and thought about how far we'd traveled from that devastating phone call about the wedding. Riley's rejection, which had felt like the end of the world, had actually been the beginning of everything. Sometimes the people who try to make you feel small are actually pushing you towards something greater. Emma and I had never needed anyone's permission to be a real family. We just needed to believe in ourselves. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.